Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with thinkorswim. You know, there are a lot of traders and investors out there who like to use charts in the planning and execution of trades, or maybe they just want to track current positions in their portfolio. Well, we're going to be taking a good close look, providing a beginner's guide to charts on thinkorswim. I'm looking very much forward to this discussion. I think there's going to be something new for just about everybody out there. But before we can get to any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everybody that's joining us out there on YouTube. I see a lot of familiar names, a lot of new names, so hello to everybody. Hello there, Joe and Brian, Eva, John, Dwavy, Gary, W. Jen, Doug, Armour, Gina, Eva Ricebird, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. If you're one of our returning attendees, welcome back. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the fact, if you're just watching the recording of this presentation, well, enjoy the show, but be aware that you're invited to join us in the live discussion if you'd like to be here. This is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly every Wednesday at 2 Eastern Time. We'd love to have you here in the live stream audience. And for our live stream audience members, we also have my very good friend, Kevin Horner, is going to be hanging out in the chats with you. Kevin's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to just during the natural flow of the presentation. As long as they're not too far off topic, Kevin's there to pick up the slack for me. And Kevin and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody watching. If you have an account with X, so think about that. To have an account with X, give your favorite presenters a follow. That's the best place to connect with them in between these live streams. And you can find Kevin there on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me there at Cameron May CS. That's the CS is for Charles Schwab. And really, that's where I can provide more current, sort of up-to-date observations about the markets, maybe chat back and forth a little bit. But yeah, if you reply to one of my posts, I try to reply right back to you on X, a great platform to make the connection in between these live streams. But let's get into this world of using thinkorswim's charts. All right, as we do, of course, the first thing that we need to do is consider the risks associated with investing. Risks are real, so bear these important disclosures in mind. The information here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or endorsement of any particular security, chart pattern, or investment strategy. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Any investment decision you make in your self-directed account is solely your responsibility. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. Okay, so let's set an agenda for what we're going to be doing today. Pretty straightforward stuff. We're going to be going to the thinkorswim desktop software platform and just introducing ourselves to the powerful charting tools that are available there. Now, I am aware that some of you might be very new to thinkorswim, so the first thing I want to make us aware of is where to get it. It doesn't cost anything to download. It's a software program that's intended to be complementary to the tools that are already available to you on your Schwab Online account. But I'll show you where to download it. Then we'll go to charting. We'll navigate around, get familiar with some of the tools. I think the best way to accomplish that is just really start at the top, work our way across, go down the right column, work our way across the bottom, and just get a pretty high-level introduction. We should be very comfortable with the navigation of thinkorswim's charts by the end of today's discussion. All right, so let's go to, first of all, talk about where we can get this charting. So I'm going to pop over here. This is just a demonstration account of the Schwab Online tools. So let's just imagine you just logged into your schwab.com account. To download thinkorswim, you just pop up to the Trade tab, and over here, it'll say thinkorswim desktop. You just click that button and just look for a big blue bar. So I'm going to scroll down just a bit. There it is. Learn how to enable thinkorswim. That'll walk you through the process. It'll explain thinkorswim to you basically, and it'll show you how to get the download accomplished. And again, no charge for doing this. But that will create an icon on your computer's desktop. It looks like a little splash, you know, like thinkorswim, like we're splashing in the pool. And you just click on that icon, and that's going to bring up a sign-in screen. Looks just like this. Now notice as we go to sign in, and there's no special username or password required for this, you just use your Schwab login credentials. But before you do, note down at the bottom, there's a little toggle asking, well, Cameron, do you want your live trading? Because we can trade our live positions here, and there are lots of tools to assist us in doing that. Or we can launch what's called paper money, which is a mock-up practice version of thinkorswim. And that's sort of that's the safe place to go and do some practice trading, some practice with new tools when we're learning something new. That's where we might go, where there's no skin in the game, you can't make expensive mistakes. We just log into paper money using the same username and password, and that's what I have launched already. So let me just close this, because I've already opened up my paper money account. And when we first log in, we probably find ourselves on what's called the monitor page. This is where we monitor the performance of existing positions. But I want to spend some time on the charting capabilities of thinkorswim, which a lot of our users are really drawn to. So I'm going to go to charts, and let's just kick things off by entering a symbol. If you already know your symbol, just type it in here. For our first symbol, I think what we'll do is just use Citigroup. It's a simple symbol, one letter, C. Now, if you don't know the symbol for a stock, one other thing that we can do here on the charting is just start typing in the name. Like if I start typing in Citigroup, you'll notice the system searches through available potential symbols, proposes a menu of what I might be looking for, and I'm just going to click Citigroup right from there. Richard says, is thinkorswim available for Mac too? It absolutely is, Richard, and clicking on that blue button will link you either to downloading it to just your Windows-based machine or to a Mac. Yep. Okay, but here we find ourselves by default, and we're going to be changing things as we go, but by default we're looking at a candle chart. It's a one-year view looking at daily candles of Citigroup. But I'm going to start way up here in the upper right, because I always get the question, hey Cameron, how come your thinkorswim is white? It has this light background, light and cheery, while Ben's has this dark, kind of serious, professional looking appearance to it. Well, the white and the black can be changed right up here. It's entirely up to the user's preference, but that's up here under the general setup application settings for the whole platform. I'm going to be leaving mine as the white background, but if we go to setup and we go to application settings, we can change the look and feel of our platform. You can see mine is light. I could switch this to dark, and I know I'm a little bit picking on Ben. That's because he can take it. Ben and I have been working together for more than 20 years. Could have picked on Kevin. We've been working together for years as well. But if I were to apply this as my settings, you can see how that really does change the appearance of the platform dramatically. It doesn't change the functionality. So let's just go back up here. Let's switch the look and feel back to light. But yeah, if you are trying to follow along and you're wondering why your presenters tools look so different from what you're seeing, that might be it. All right, now let's come over here to the left side and start working our way across. Now, as a matter of fact, one other thing I do want to show up here, we're going to be using just one chart. But a very common question that I get is, how can I get multiple charts on my screen at the same time? That's using what's called the grid feature. Right up here in the upper right, you'll notice there's just a rectangle because it's just one chart. If I click on that rectangle, it gives me the option to choose all sorts of layouts of different configurations of multiple charts. So let's say I wanted a layout of, let's say 4 charts to arrange 2 by 2. I could just click there, and there are now 4 independently functional charts. Now, if I want to look at, now notice I could come here, I could type in like Ford for this one, I could come down here, we type in General Electric down there. But to navigate among these, see, they're a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit harder to see. Each one of these charts is now known as a cell, C-E-L-L. So if I click on the little menu icon in the upper right, I can maximize just one of those cells. So now I'm just looking at the one that I just maximized, but the other ones are still up here, and I can navigate among them by using the back and forth arrows here, forward and back. So click on the forward, and we moved on to Ford and General Electric. Let's go back to Citigroup. If I want to go back to seeing all 4 again, I can click on the little back arrow. And then if I want to switch back to just one chart, I go back to that grid icon. And so we're already learning some pretty nifty stuff. So coming back here, and we're going to work our way across this top row of tabs. USA says, how did I open the chart? So initially I went up here. By the way, if you happen to miss one of these tools, this webcast is being recorded and is planned to be added to our thinkorswim, to our YouTube archives. So here's a big suggestion I have for you. I can see a lot of you watching right now. I know a lot of you are not subscribers to our YouTube channel, but that's where we house all of our stuff. So do yourself a favor, go down and click on the subscribe button right now. It's right down below the video stream. That doesn't cost anything. It only takes a second, but YouTube is where you can find all of our webcasts, not every single one, but the vast majority. Let me show you that. And we house that on our channel that's called Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast. So once you've subscribed, you can then just go to YouTube, look for our channel, Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast. And right here on our homepage, you can find our playlist for previous webcasts. You can join our live streams right here, and you can even do searches if you have an interest in something specific, like you want to learn about price patterns, you want to learn about options trading, whatever. So just for today's example, let's say you had an interest in learning more about this thinkorswim platform. We're going to be learning all about charting. Well, I'm going to click on playlists, and I do this weekly webcast series called Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And on these playlists, somebody has to be buried at the bottom. Mine is buried down at the bottom. So I just scroll all the way down at the bottom. There's Getting Started with Thinkorswim, and you can see a view full playlist. And as a matter of fact, within this playlist, I saw a request from Eva a little bit earlier. Hey, I'd sure like to see a discussion of the monitor tab at some point. Guess what? If I scroll down through this playlist, one thing that I would suggest for our beginners here is to look for a series of lessons that I've done for getting started with thinkorswim. But we can also just search for, did I click on the right one? Yeah, getting started with thinkorswim. But in any case, we can do a search for that topic of interest. So I could go here and just type in monitor, hit enter on my keyboard, and what do you know? There's lesson 2 of 8 using the thinkorswim monitor tab. All right. Anyway, so that's to get up to speed. So if you miss something, if you want to go back and revisit, you can pop over to that. But back here on our charts on thinkorswim, we know that we can type in our symbol, we can type in the name of the company. There's also a little drop-down menu here that has some nice shortcuts embedded already in the charts. So for example, let's say you wanted to check up on the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones, one of those indices. Well, we could click on indices and we can find, hey, here's the NASDAQ composite. Let's bring up the NASDAQ. We click on that. There's the NASDAQ. We go back here, scroll down a little bit further and go to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Don't need to scroll down. We can just click on it. By the way, there are some drawings on this. I'll show you how to make those drawings. So there are some initial nifty little features of getting around on thinkorswim charts. So let's go further across here. Next up, we can see the name of the company, but squished in between is this little chain. Wherever we see a chain, it means that we can link this feature that we're using. In this case, we're using the charts. We can link it to some other feature of thinkorswim. So for example, the trade tab. Notice I went over to the trade tab. Here's Ford. If I go back to charts, here's Citigroup. Well, what if I want to make sure that whenever I move, let's say I do a lot of charting, and I like to flash over to my trade tab to place my trade, but I don't want to have to go over and type in the symbol. If I forget, I might trade the wrong thing. But let's link these two. So all we do is click on that link, choose a color, a numbered color. Doesn't a colored number. Let's reverse that. Doesn't matter which one we choose. Then we go to the trade tab, click that link, and notice those two are now linked. General Electric on our charts, General Electric here. If I go back to Citi on our charts and I go to trade, hey, what do you know? It's already linked here. You'll see that link showing up all over thinkorswim. All right, but over further to the right here across that top bar, we have the current quote on Citigroup. We can see whether it's up or down in dollar amount and percentage terms. We can see the current bid and ask price. Just below that, we see a row of numbers that are moving. Why are they moving around? Well, it's because I'm moving around. Okay, Mark says, how do I make the cursor style default to none? It's annoying to have it start the crosshairs. Mark, good question. I was going to save that for the end, but that's okay. It's right down here, Mark. it was something I definitely wanted to cover. We can have a cross, we can have just the vertical line, just the horizontal line, or none. And once we make that change, when we make these changes on thinkorswim, they just save for the next time we use the platform. Notice there's not like a save feature so many times when we make changes to thinkorswim, because the system just remembers the way you had things set up the last time you used it, and it assumes that's the way you want it the next time. All right, so next up, these numbers here. We can see here's the date, or pardon me, this is the time frame of our chart. So right now we're using a 1 year, 1 day time frame. It's telling us which exchanges the company's traded on, but it also gives us these numbers. And there's a little hint, DOHLCRY. What do those mean? Well, let me just position my cursor. I'm just going to stick it there in the middle of my chart, and I'm just going to take my hands off the chart. And what you'll notice now is if we look back up to the DOHLCRY, D stands for the date on which I've positioned my cursor. So I can see this happens to be September 23rd. The O is the opening price for September 23rd. The high of 62.87, that's the high of that date. L is the low. C is the closing price for that date. The R is the range from high to low for that day. So if I were to look at this little candle down here on September 23rd, that is a 70-cent tall candle. That's its range. And then the Y makes reference to what we call the Y-axis or the price axis. When we're drawing a grid, the vertical axis is the Y-axis, the horizontal axis is the X-axis. So this is just showing me wherever my cursor is on that Y-axis, which is nice and handy when we're trying to determine a specific price level. So notice as I move my cursor up and down, there's a little gray bubble following that cursor, intersecting with my horizontal line, and that coincides with that Y value. That comes in handy all the time. All right, so look at that. We've already learned all of this over the left. Let's get familiar with some of these tools off to the right. As you get a little bit more comfortable with the usage of charts on thinkorswim, and especially if you have buddies that also use thinkorswim, sometimes we like to share our chart with somebody else. Hey, I made this nifty technical discovery, created a nice list of technical studies on my chart. Wonder if I could share that with my buddy. Yes. We just click share. It's 2 clicks, and we're ready to send a link to that friend. Okay? So we just click share, and then we just click share again, and that automatically creates a link. You can see it popping up there on our screen, but I don't have to choose copy or anything like that. It's already saved to my notepad. And then if I want to paste it into, I don't know, an email or whatever, I can just right-click, paste it. There's that link. Now, Sarah, I just explained the why. So if you need to go back, you can always go back and watch the archive of these. Not always, but almost always, you can go back and check the archives of these webcasts. A very few are not actually scheduled to be added to our YouTube channel. Or occasionally we'll run into a technical glitch that prevents something from being posted to our YouTube channel. But other than that, yeah, you can just go back and rewatch. But in any case, this link is a thinkorswim link. It's not one that you'd go like plug into your browser URL bar. Instead, you'd come up here, your buddy would take that link, and they would just open that shared item, paste it right in there and import it. And what it would do is just create that chart on their thinkorswim. That's pretty cool. Anyway, we don't need this link. I'll just clear that out there so we can use that space for our discussion of charts. So we can share charts. Now we're going to get into the stuff that a lot of people really like about charting, and that is adding technical indicators or studies to the charts. This little flask icon means we're ready to do some experiments, right? So if I click on that little flask, this gives me a whole menu of technical studies that might be added. There are over 400 of them. The field of this discipline that we call technical analysis is deep. It is broad. There's a lot of stuff out there, and thinkorswim has lots of these tools. Some of the more common tools, I'll just use maybe 1 or 2 as examples, but let's say our trader is adding a trend line to their chart known as a simple moving average. Well, I can just go down in alphabetical order and find it, Or I can start doing a keyword search. Let's start typing in the word simple, and I can just choose simple moving average from the menu, add that to my chart, and then just apply it to the chart. And what you'll notice now, as I click OK, is now we have this green. This one by default is going to be pretty short-term simple moving average, typically used by relatively short-term traders. But there's that study. If I want to add another study, I can pop back up here. Let's add maybe a MACD histogram. I'll add that to our chart. This is more of a momentum study. Let's apply that to our chart and click OK. And now we're getting a set of studies going. Then if I want to remove, okay, Sarah says, how many indicators can you use at the same time? Sarah, I've never gotten to the bottom of that because a chart gets messy pretty quickly. I know you can add a lot. I don't know what the top end is because I've never had a personal interest in pursuing that, because too many studies can lead to something that we call analysis or paralysis by analysis. It means that we can't get them all to work together, so it doesn't lead us to any conclusions. Yeah, but a lot. Is it okay for me to leave it at that? But if we want to remove a study, we can just go back up here and click the little X to the right of the title of our study. And we could customize studies. I'm not going to go that far. Okay. Let me click apply and click OK, and we've removed those studies. Now, Mark says, or Bob says, what's the difference between the two flasks? I'll explore that with you in just a second there, Bob. Mark says, Cameron, how do I add an index or other security to a chart I already have for comparison to show on the same chart? Mark, that's a great question. In the interest of time, it's a little bit niche. I won't explore that today, but I do have a suggestion for you. For those who are a little bit more advanced in their understanding of charts, they want to go to another level than just this introduction. Hey, I teach a regular webcast series that's called Advanced Charting Techniques. So for that, what you do is just go to the playlists, scroll halfway down in this case, so it's not buried, it's just sort of smuggled in the middle. There's my Advanced Charting Techniques. You can view the full playlist there, and we go into more detail there. Somebody says, was that a 50-day moving average? No, that was just a 9. That's the default on thinkorswim. It defaults to a shorter term time frame. Don't read anything into that. There had to be some default for something. That's what it is. In any case, that's where we can add our studies. Now, on paper money, the nice thing is we can play around with it, with whatever new studies we've discovered, and we don't have any risk that we're going to hit the wrong button and mess something up dramatically. So as you learn these new tools, download thinkorswim, log into paper money, and experiment with them. All right, just to the right here, we have a gear icon. A gear means that we're prepared to make changes to our settings. So up here, these are settings for the whole platform. In this case, these are settings for just the charts. These are our chart settings. So as I click on this, all sorts of settings changes we can make. Price axis, time axis, favorite time frames, the appearance of the charts, what to display when we're charting an equity, what to display when charting other things. I just want to give you a little sample. I can't go into all of these tools in a 45-minute webcast. I don't think it would serve anybody's purposes. I think I'm already covering quite a lot of territory anyway. But a couple of common changes here is to go to equities. Let's show volume on our chart. Volume is related to stock trading. Well, this will just show it below the chart. And let's also show the corporate actions. Corporate actions is a generic term that we use in the industry to describe things like earnings announcements or stock splits or dividends paid, things that can affect their actions taken by the corporation that can affect the stock's performance. All right, so I'm going to click apply here and click OK, and now we have our volume and we have our icons indicating these corporate actions. In this case, our red and blue icons show us earnings announcements, and you can actually hover over those and show us the details of the earnings announcements. The green icons show us dividends, and there are different icons that would show if we had like a stock split, things like that. So somebody out there says, how do I get a 50-day and a 200-day moving average? You know what? Twist my arm. I like doing this kind of stuff, so let me go up here. I'll show it to you. Let's go back up here, get a little repetition. Let's add our simple moving average. By default, that creates a 9-period moving average. Here's a little gear. This gear is for the This one up here is for the whole platform. We just saw chart settings. This one are the settings for our indicator. So I could click on that and just change it to a 50 and click OK. I could do the same thing applying a 200. There we go. All right. Let me just erase that. We've learned how to erase. So this is where we make broad changes to the display that we get. And once those changes have been made, we don't have to click save or anything like that. Those just remain there until we choose to go back in and reverse the process. Now, next up, we have our time frames for our charts. What you're seeing here is a D. That means that we're looking at daily candles. And I can see over here, this is a 1-year chart. So here's where I can change the time frame. By default, there's a menu of favorites. We could go with a 1-minute chart, with a daily chart with 1-minute candles. We could switch to a 3-year chart with weekly candles. We can just click on that, and it just brings up the different time frame. Or we can choose custom time frames here, going from very short term to much longer term. So if I were to go to intraday, I could change this to like a 5-day chart with what in the world does aggregation period mean? If I were running the world, I would have just called this candle size. That's what it is. This means a 1-minute candle. This would mean a 5-minute candle. So we just click OK. Now we're looking at a 5-day chart with 5-minute candles. Let's switch this back using our favorites to that 1-year, 1-day. So moving a little bit further to the right here, we have different styles of charts. Now, as I click on this, you're going to see a menu that has lots of other functionality, but I want to focus on just candle style, or pardon me, chart styles, one of which is a candle chart. So by default, you're going to see a lot of our instructors using candle charts. They tend to be fairly popular, and will commonly default to those. But not every chartist prefers candles. So notice right here, it says the current chart type is a candle. This allows us to choose from other commonly used chart types, including bar charts, candle trend charts, Heikin-Ashi candles, or line charts. Let me just switch to line charts. That's probably second in order of popularity to candles, at least in my experience. So if I make that switch, now I'm looking at line charts. It's just connecting closing prices from one day to the next and showing us what price is tending to do over time. Then I can switch that style back, just pop back up here, switch it back to a candle chart. I am tempted, believe you me, I'm tempted to try to show you every single function within this platform, but I do want to keep it at an introductory level because, again, I'm looking at over 700 people in this webcast series. I'd have 150, 200 people on a typical Wednesday, which means we got about 500 new people watching. So welcome to you guys. But I can't make assumptions that I have 500 veteran traders who know everything about everything. So I got to keep it high level for this discussion. Let's get into drawings. Lots of traders. Okay, drawings are not necessary on a chart, but they can be helpful in helping a trader to visualize what they see on a chart right now, and also what they were seeing 3 months after the fact when they're revisiting the logic of a trade. In any case, let's go to our drawings. And there are a number of ways that we can access thinkorswim's drawing tools. One of those ways is up here through this menu. Another way, so as I hover over this, you'll notice I get this column of icons. What do we get if I come down here and click on this little icon just to the left of where it says drawing set? Well, I get that column of icons. So it's just another way to access. There's a third way. If we right-click on the chart, we can also add a drawing tool that way. It's all the same stuff. But in any case, lots of traders like to draw lines. They like to draw ovals and squares and Fibonacci's and all kinds of things, maybe make notes to themselves. So let's use a couple of the more commonly used drawing tools. By default, you'll see that mine right now is what we call our trend line tool. It's this forward-leaning trend line, and that's why it's showing down here as my active tool. Let's select that one first, and let's just draw a line. Now, when we're drawing, so Mark says, please confirm, do you do a thinkorswim instruction class every Wednesday at 2 Eastern? Exactly. Yep, Mark, that's just what I do. Yep, sometimes I go deeper dive, other times I go more surface level. Yep, although not a lot of it is surface level, right? But let's say that our trader is looking at Citigroup and they notice, wow, there was a price ceiling right around here at about that $67 level that became the price floor for the rest of the year. Maybe they want to draw in a line to acknowledge that. Well, wherever we want to draw a line or make a drawing really of any type, we just click once to start that drawing, and then we move to where we want to end the drawing and click again. So I'm going to click once to start my line, and then I'm going to click again to end that line. There we go. That made a nice flat line. Now, by default, it's going to draw a thin black line. That can be perfectly fine for some. I'm among those that likes to customize my drawing features. So once we've drawn something, I can right-click on that. This is just a right-click functionality, and I can edit the properties of that line. So right now, for example, the default color is black. I like blue. Right now, it's a solid line. I like the dashed ones. Right now, the width is 1 out of 5. I like it to be 5 out of 5. And not only that, I don't want that just for this line. I'm going to click on Save as Default. So now my default is going to be a thick dashed blue line from now on. So I click OK. That line is thick and dashed in blue, and I can click and draw new lines, and they're also thick and dashed in blue. Now, once we've cluttered up our chart with lots of drawings, we can pick them off one at a time, or we can erase them all. In that case, in any case, it's again a right-click feature. Right-click and remove a drawing, or right-click and clear the whole drawing set. That would clean off everything that we've drawn on our chart. In this case, the system wants to be sure, Cameron, you're about to wipe away your masterpiece. Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I'm going to do that, and it's gone. Okay, nice clean chart here. And the other tools work very much the same. So if I wanted to draw, let's say, a rectangle, I'd click on the rectangle tool, click once where I want to start it, click again where I want to end it, and I have a little box here. If I want to edit its properties, right-click, edit properties. Let's change its color. I kind of like mine. My rectangles, I typically use an opaque pale green. Let me click OK. I'm going to save that as my default. And there we go. So now whenever I draw a rectangle, it looks like that. And I can right-click and clear off that whole drawing set. Let's get rid of all 3 rectangles at once. So there we go. So now we get to the question here that was asked by Bob, right? I'm going by memory. I think it was Bob. Bob said, what's the difference between the 2 flasks up here? Well, they actually give access. They're different portals to the same set of tools. So it just is personal preference which one a trader uses. We can access our study sets or our studies up here. Or if I click on this, this is just more of a menu-driven arrangement of the tools. So for example, let's say I liked that MACD as a momentum study, and I want to say, well, what other momentum studies are there? Well, I can come to this tool, and it organizes the momentum studies into a group, and then I can even find, like, let's say, my MACD histogram. Now, let me add the MACD histogram to the chart. I'm going to go back up here. So we now see that we can use these menus of these groupings of different related types of technical studies to choose. But within this menu, there are 2 ways to add. Look at this. It looks almost exactly the same. We can do what's called a quick study, or we can add study. It's the same menu. Why do we have redundancy here? Well, the quick study makes the assumption that you just want one study on the chart at a time. So if I choose another study from this menu, it's going to replace the one that I already have. So for example, let's go back to our moving averages. Let's add that simple moving average that we had before, and that's going to interpret this action that I'm taking. Since I'm adding a quick study, it's going to quickly replace my MACD with a moving average. So let me just choose that, and there we go. Now we just have MACD. What if I want both? Well, then I need to add a study. Let's add our momentum study, our MACD histogram back here. There. Now I have both again. All right? And then I can also let's just remove all those studies using that menu. So this is a nice little feature up here that's not available over here, Bob. Remove all the studies just with a click. And it says, are you sure you want to do this, Cameron? Yes, I want to do that. All right, so we've made it all the way to the far right here for our charts. And we have something that's called patterns. This is a tool that allows a trader to search for different price patterns. I don't want to get into what price patterns are or what candlestick patterns are. We also have search functionalities for candlestick patterns. Not everybody uses those. I'm going to leave you to explore this on your own, but what I would say as a type of caution is that frequently a search engine that's designed to look for something like a price pattern or a candlestick doesn't have in mind exactly what you might have in mind as the individual trader. So experiment with that tool on your own. See if it aligns with what you would typically describe as, I don't know, an ascending triangle or a bullish engulfing. But in any case, I'll let you explore that one on your own. So let's move over here to this right side. Bob, you like that? Is that a good clarification? Good. Yeah, because there's a little haziness between, why do these appear to be redundant, those Flask tools? Over here to the right are a series of buttons that will activate other tools in addition to our chart. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So for example, let me click on the TRD for the trade. Well, that activates a row of tabs up here that allows us to keep our chart down below, but it has trade functionalities up here where we can buy the stock, we can sell it, we can change the quantity for the order, change the order type, time in force. And to get rid of one of these tools that we've selected, we just click on it again and it disappears. I'm going to say this with a word of caution. If you ever accidentally click on the C stands for chart, you'll get nothing. My chart is gone. What that's assuming is you're going to use these other tools and you don't need the chart. So always make sure that your little C is activated here. If you ever accidentally click on it and it disappears, don't panic. All you have to do is click on that C again. But those trade buttons, you can actually align those across the top using the trade functionality. You can also click on buttons and that puts them on the side, or you can click on what do we call this? I usually just click on a DB. It's the dashboard. That's right. Click on the dashboard and we still have some trade functionality down below. So that's a quick introduction to 3 of those. What are the rest of these? Well, we have time and sales. I get questions all the time. Cameron, where are your time and sales? Well, I can click on TS right here, and this just loads up tick by tick quote data on our trade data on the trades that have been happening. Literally second by second, price by price, and it shows us the quantity here. So there's our time and sales. We also have a tool to which I have dedicated a whole webcast before called the Active Trader. This is an order entry screen that allows a trader to place orders very quickly while also viewing their charts. So you may want to check out my webcast you might just do a search for Active Trader here. But we can also access our options chain. If I click on this tool, there's the options chain. For those who have been trading options on thinkorswim before, this works just like it does on our trade tab. You can access the full option chain, you can click on it, place trades, and so on. Down below, we've already learned about the dashboard, so we have our level 2 information right here. Level 2 is telling us where quotes are coming from, what the bid price is, what the ask price is, the bid size and the ask size. And then finally, we have news. Now, some of you are going, I don't know what level 2 is. I don't know what options are. That's okay. I just want to provide an awareness to where to find this stuff for those who do. And maybe sometime down the road, you'll pick up on this. So as you're watching this, just make sure, pay attention to what seems to have importance to you and what may not. Okay. But down here at the bottom, we have a news feed. So if I click on the N for live news, this is now streaming news for Citigroup. If it has pertinence to Citigroup, like if something happens with Bank of America, yeah, that has potential application for Citigroups. Okay? Did I say Citigroups? Citigroup. Anyway. All right, finally, we make it to the bottom. We've already learned about drawing tools. Those are found right there. We've even learned about our cursor type, whether we have crosshairs, vertical, horizontal, or not. I did want to talk about the right expansion settings, because you'll notice right now my last candle it's really crowding right into the right margin. For some traders, they prefer to have some extra space there to work with so they can make drawings into the future. They can also see future events as they're approaching. Let me click on this right expansion settings, and I'm going to change those right expansions. And right now it's set to showing 0 space off to the right. Let's add 10 bars. In other words, this is a daily chart. Let's add 10 days of space there. And you'll notice as I did that with Citigroup, that allows me some space here. It also allows me to see, oh, there's an earnings announcement approaching. Wouldn't have seen that had this been crowded off. Now, finally, we have a zoom feature on thinkorswim. I say finally, I say finally because we're at the end of our time, not because we're at the end of the number of tools that we have. But we can zoom in and zoom out on our chart by using these little magnifying glasses. Click the plus to zoom in, click the minus to zoom out, or we can go to any time in history and just click and drag on the chart and highlight a specific period of time, and then it'll just zoom in on that period. And then we can either double click on the chart. Let me do this. Clear that drawing set. Anyway, double click on the chart and it'll zoom in, or we can use that minus sign again. Pardon me, zoom back out. All right. Now, when we're zoomed, pardon me, of course, my voice picks up on the fact that there's very little time left and it decides to fail me at that moment. But when we are zoomed, we can still advance the chart using the scroll bar at the bottom, back and forth, or we can use the arrows back and forth. All right. Guys, we've accomplished a lot in our 45 minutes together today. We provided an introduction to where to find and download thinkorswim, how to access the charts, and really how to navigate them to a large extent. There's a lot to it. That's okay. Remember, this session is being recorded. So one more reminder. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do that now. You can go down and click on that on the subscribe button down below the video stream. But YouTube is where we house these webcasts. If you want to go back and watch one, you thought some of this stuff was nifty, but you didn't pick up on all of it, or if you think, oh, it's okay, but I really wanted to learn about price patterns, or I really wanted to learn about something else, well, this is where you can find all of those resources under the playlists. You can also join our live streams right here. Do a search for topics of interest right there. Kevin, thanks for helping out in chats. Everybody, make sure that you are also following us on X. Best place to connect with your favorite presenters in between these live streams. So you can find Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me there at Cameron May CS. Make sure that you are precise with those handles. So mine is at Cameron May CS, because on social media, you know that a lot of the handles can be very similar, sometimes innocently, sometimes not so much. So make sure you know who you're dealing with. And I am that guy. And this is where you can find things like, oh, hey, what happened with Cameron's weather yesterday? Thanks a lot, state of Utah. We've been having beautiful 70-degree weather, and then we got snow yesterday. Cold again today. But in any case, also thank you to, I have now about 550 people watching. 96 people have already clicked the thumbs up. Make a habit, if you watch one of our webcasts and you enjoyed it, you appreciate the efforts of your presenter, click that like button. It's very valuable to us. Number one, it sounds like applause to your presenter. That's my interpretation of it. If everybody's in there madly clicking the thumbs up, I might think that I'm onto something. Also, it gives our webcasts a boost in the YouTube algorithm, and it helps more people find this discussion of how to use thinkorswim's charts. So that definitely helps. So click that thumbs up. I don't believe, Kevin, I didn't see a survey in this webcast, did I? I don't think so. Sometimes you'll get a survey, not in this case. But yeah, fill those out when you see them. But in any case, guys, I will look for you in my future webcasts. I hope that you'll join me again next Wednesday for another discussion of Getting Started with Thinkorswim. I'll look for you in the webcast that I have. Every market day of the week, I have a different topic, a different series. So I'd love to see you in those other series. I'll also look for you on X, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.